Since I did a top 5 favorite Spider-Man movie villains list, I thought it was only appropriate for me to do a top 5 favorite Spider-Man comic book villains. Because why not? Some of these villains, actually a lot of them, haven't been used in movies, and a couple of them have been used, but I wasn't necessarily happy with their characterization. Coming in at number 5, the Lizard. I know the Lizard was in The Amazing Spider-Man, the official reboot to the series, and it wasn't like he was horrible in the movie. I liked the actor, and I liked a lot of things about the character. He did feel like the Lizard, but there were a lot of things missing as well. Mostly with Dr. Connors and his humanity, how good of a person he was, him having a wife and son. I think we could have done a lot with his character by just having a family. I know there were deleted scenes of him with his son and whatnot, but they took it out. So it's almost like it never happened. Hell, even the fact that they shot those scenes and then took them out is more of a slap to the face of fans of the Lizard. And I've talked about this countless times before, but I do not like the way the Lizard looks in that movie. The fact that he doesn't have a snout. I know that the original Ditko drawings of the Lizard, he doesn't have a snout, and he pretty much looks like how a lizard looks in the movie. So I get it. It's more of a taste thing. But me, the Lizard that I grew up on has the snout, and he wears the lab coat, which is another thing that pissed me off. So certain aspects, again, I didn't like. But the character himself, I think he's interesting. I think how he starts off as an ally to Peter and then becomes an enemy. And then the redemption story with the Lizard is all fascinating and could be done well in the film. Number 4, Kraven the Hunter. Such a fascinating character. The fact that we haven't had a movie with him so far bothers me. Kraven, he is obviously, judging by his name, he's a hunter. He's from the jungle. He has collected and conquered almost every animal that he's wanted to kill. And for some reason, he sees Spider-Man and thinks to himself, wow, that would look nice on my wall. To be the guy who killed Spider-Man and had him as a trophy. And so to see a villain like that, who is that well-trained, that smart, that calculated. Number 3, speaking of wanting to see a villain, Carnage. I'm not the only one who's said that they want to see Carnage in the film. Honestly, as much as I want to see him, it's going to be hard to do him because he's a pretty brutal and violent and vicious character. He's a serial killer, he's a murderer. The way he kills people too, he'll kill them in a dark alley and then with their blood right on the walls, Carnage was here, leave marks, messages for Spider-Man. That would be pretty effing tough to do in a Spider-Man film. I mean, you'd either really have to make a rated R movie, which I doubt they'll ever do, or you'll have to just push the envelope pretty far. I guess kind of like The Dark Knight with like how far that Joker went in PG-13. I guess you could do it, but it's not easy to do. And I do want him to be connected to Venom in some ways. So in many ways you have to have Venom first before you do Carnage. But just the idea of Cletus Cassidy in a Spider-Man film just makes my brain go crazy. Number 2, Green Goblin. Not too much of a surprise. I liked the Green Goblin that we got in the Sam Raimi movie, so no problem there. But Goblin in the comic books is, for all intents and purposes, Spider-Man's greatest foe. He's the guy who not only is connected to Peter Parker personally, being Harry's father and whatnot, but the fact that he finds out who Spider-Man is, who Peter Parker is. He tricks him, he follows him home, and he sees him take off his mask. And then he uses his identity against him and goes after his loved ones. It's something that I'm sure people will say, well, they've seen that before, or it's not that special. Green Goblin was one of the first villains to do something like that. And I think that's something that's forgotten about the character, and that puts him a few notches above the rest in comic book form anyways. But my number 1 favorite Spider-Man villain of all time is Venom. surprise, surprise, right? I've said before, I love Venom. Everything about his character. I know it's Spider-Man 3 is such a disappointment as far as Venom goes. But in the comics, Eddie Brock is this guy who is trying hard to get a job at the Bugle, and it's not really working out. He has to fabricate pictures of Spider-Man robbing banks, and then when he gets found out, exposed by Spider-Man, it ruins his reputation, his career, so he instantly hates Spider-Man just from that alone. And then when Spider-Man gets rid of the black suit, and that symbiote goes on to Eddie Brock, his hatred for Spider-Man and now the symbiote's hatred for Spider-Man, put that together, it's amplified times 10. And then when he just stays locked away for God knows how long, and he's working out, he's getting himself bigger and bigger, he's huge, and he has all of Spider-Man's powers, abilities, pretty much none of his weaknesses. He knows everything about the guy because of the symbiote. And him stalking Spider-Man and sort of planning his attack before just going head-on against him. This is what makes Venom smart, calculated, but a huge physical threat as well. And to be honest, he just looks badass. That black suit, the mouth, the crazy tongue, he looks awesome. There's so much going on with the character. I still can't understand why Sam Raimi didn't like the character. It's his prerogative. He didn't want to use him. I get that. But dude, how do you read Birth of Venom? How do you read that story arc and not be interested? Anyways, guys, that's my favorite Spider-Man villains from the comic books. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of my list? Do you agree? Who are some of your favorites? Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Later!